A Glaring, Part 2 of 2.
You could really do this stuff yourself from time to time.
What stuff?
Opening doors, getting downstairs. I know Jade likes you, but...
Jade?
The cat! Come on, keep up. You don't want the thing that got Bazil to catch you too. The quiet took a lot more than just his voice.
I always thought it was a boy.
Maybe. I haven't checked, have you?
No, but Jade just sounds like... I don't know. I didn't even know it had a name.
A name isn't something you have, silly. It's something you're given. I call it Jade, but that doesn't make it the cat's name. It makes it my name for the cat. You can't give others that sort of power. If it turned out the cat was a boy, then I would... Nope, can't think of a better name. I'd still call it Jade. Can't boys be called Jade?
Sure, they, yeah. Do you have a name?
Were you not listening? Come on, you have a photo shoot, don't you?
In her frilly blue dress, she skips ahead from rock to rock so naturally that it almost looks like her feet are genuinely touching the ground. But Jessica knows better. It hasn't escaped her notice that the friends are out in unusual numbers today, and the mounting concern of her followers indicates that this observation isn't lost on them either. She wonders what they think the ghosts stand for. She wonders if they do stand for something. Less, or perhaps more importantly, she also wonders if this pondering is detrimenting her pace, or if her impractical choice of footwear is solely to blame in that regard. Either way, Jessica finds it difficult to keep pace with her spirit guide. Hey, so... can I call you Serpentine?
Weird, but I like it. Why?
It's another green stone for a start, and the word sort of reminds me of how you walk in a way. I don't know, I've never tried giving you names. I wanted to know what it'd feel like.
And? How does it feel like?
Solid, I think. Or at least more solid. Less like falling. Are you gonna give me a name? The girl turns around and mercifully pauses for a bit. The ground beneath her, a laminar mass of black cats that Jessica hadn't noticed before, though it hardly surprises her. It is doubtful that anything happens without observers, from what sparse bits of the mother's physics class she can remember, and that certainly feels true. Should no eyes be provided, Jessica brings her own purringly vigilant guarantee of continued existence.
Nope.
Why not?
Because I haven't even decided if I like you yet. You're weird, and I don't really feel like I know who you are just behind the retinal epithelium. You did give me a good name, which is a plus, don't get me wrong, but I can't just form an emotional bond with anyone who grants me phonological representation. Words are cheap, even the ones we find pleasant.
Jessica sheaves her phone for a moment to look up at the bright, girl-shaped spectre, attempting to remember when she last revealed information to an audience of one. Okay. I'm Jessica, as in that's the name my parents gave me, and maybe Heine, as in that's the name people who call themselves my friends give me. Not really friends, though. People who have made their attentive observation of my existence in this world part of their own personality for reasons beyond me. Some of these refer to me by the familial appellation I have inherited to stand out against the crowd, and I have a lot of them because they got used to me being a person to be aware of and never quite felt a reason to sever that link. Because any stimulus is good stimulus. Or perhaps that's just some voyeuristic impulse born of the human mind's compulsive pattern recognition that makes us want to know facts about strangers we see too often. That's what celebrities are, right? Strangers we see too often? Maybe it's like when you walk past the same building day after day, and at some point you feel like you ought to look it up, or at least go inside, like it is somehow wrong or improper to be uninformed about this fixture of one's commute. Maybe on some level I wanted people to have that opportunity. To come in and explore, to have a look and satiate that irrational curiosity, so they wouldn't have to bear the gnawing urge.
Did it work?
The glaring perks up its collective ears in perfect unison. No, or at least not in the way I intended. I ran out of emotions which could be communicated in words without a shared context. The easy ones, the weak ones. Not intentionally, of course. With the glaring I was run out of them, run over and out into the alleyways of lonely feral concepts. So I stopped trying, stopped acting, or started. But the thing is, they liked that. The vibe, or the mystery of the fact that it was difficult to understand. They saw me fail to communicate, and they wanted more of it. Never let it be said that I don't deliver the noise that is asked of me. Even becoming the noise was sort of comfortable at first. Effortless, but I do try. For myself, in my off time. I write. I try to figure out what it's like to actually say something again. There's this site I'm working on, or at least bashing my head against, I guess. Programming was always more my brother's thing. Kind of a message board, but more of a public chase. Not too public, not hungry, but communally public. A local cafe or the living room of a good friend. I want to be able to look back at people and talk about something that isn't me. Wanna see it? It's not that there's much to see yet. A few rough-and-tumble chat rooms and a buggy cat-themed bot to occupy digital space when the 3 or 4 people who had God knows how found the project were busy. But it's something. A piece of her the world held no claim to.
You know I can't hold a phone. Also, you're missing the point. None of this is who you are, it's what you do. You're confusing names and objects again, confusing information for insight, intentions for progress. Every time we pick up a little speed and get to going somewhere, you fall back on that.
Well, you're going too fast.
Too fast? I'm not going fast enough. The escape velocity of a person-sized subject is 11 kilometers per second, orders of magnitude beyond us.
Escape velocity isn't even size-dependent.
Mass, then.
Also irrelevant. It's only the attractor that matters.
Then there you go.
Don't pretend like you made a point. Besides, you'd burn up.
And you?
Oh, I'll be fine because I can't go that fast.
Then that's not an option. Look, we're doing our best, but we can't get you out of the gravity well if you don't hurry up. Promise me you can do that.
I would, if... There you are. Basile stands at the shore, visibly and audibly out of breath, tie loosened and hair misshapen from wind just as much as panicked ruffling, as the cats escape skyward with Serpentine in tow. Just like that. Besides an overwhelming feeling of having remembered and then forgotten something of such monumental importance that it leaves the mind a lacunal mess of conceptual detritus, Jessica feels cold. Cold and wet from the knees down, where the frigid waves lap at her skin with rough tongues of suspended sand. The Kalpa employee claims that he had just gotten up and left while he was talking, that he had found it impolite, but assumed that she had to go to the bathroom, that they were already running late. The statements in the form of statements are supplemented with statements in the form of questions. What the hell she is doing in the water, and whether she wants a towel. Jessica gives various responses whenever it is expected of her. She congratulates him on his return, which he takes with an indecisive mix of annoyance and confusion. By conventional standards, they weren't late, but convention is no more than a glorified average, and some of the individuals with whom Jessica has to take photos had a habit of showing up early, Basile claims. Care is put into the way in which he walks back assertions made to project authority more so than to communicate truth. And Jessica can respect that. It is a popular technique in her field, after all. Attempting not to get too distracted by her escort's sudden return to the realm of the living, or her ocean-induced shivering, she looks to her phone to see whether she had already been presumed dead in her short period of inactivity, which is luckily not the case due to no such period existing. No wonder Serpentine was criticizing her pace if she had been typing. Maybe she was holding back. A post in her drafts reads simply, "Initiate Puss in Boots sequence," and Jessica has no idea what that's supposed to mean, but it must have been what the glaring was going for. Successfully, unsuccessfully, inconclusive, either way, it's a funny line. Send. She pauses for a bit. Nasir had always read that story to her. A cat leading their master towards a better life through trickery. Was that what the friends were attempting to do? Was she even their master? Jessica had always seen the ghosts more as maverick roommates than anything else, creatures that intersect her life in their shared space, but who always seemed to have their own thing going on. When did that change? When did they start following her? The beginning of Jessica's latest bout of insomnia seems to fuzzily line up, even though all the days within it are blurred beyond recognition. Last month, 30 servings of burnt eggs. Fuck, does she need to sleep.
Jessica concludes that her last bit of genuine shut-eye had been a 2-hour nap in the middle of the stairwell on Friday, so it's hardly surprising that she's walking straight into oceans. Maybe that's why the stairs don't work. Are you coming?
Yes.
Well, if she is their master, which already feels off, what would the glaring even be trying to help her with? The life of an influencer is easy, they say. Jessica has a house, more money than she knows what to do with, and a cat outside her window when she can't sleep, which is always. Why is she trying to shake this up? Confusing intentions for progress, is what Serpentine said, but progress where? What intentions? Last month was when she started work on her site, on her message board. Was that when they started acting strange, or when she did? Is this another intervention? Another exorcism? Attempting to compose herself, Jessica tries to get her hair in order. Atop the little Ocean View hill, people from a variety of professions are gathered, waiting to take pictures with her, so she ought to look presentable. At the very least, they are dressed to evoke a variety of professions. Full gear with props to convey archetypal caricatures. Farmer, mailman, coast guard. Jessica wonders if that's what she's doing, playing the celebrity, or if her role is different since she's the centerpiece. Maybe being the centerpiece is playing the role of celebrity, even without a costume. Barista, construction worker, nurse. Not necessarily the jobs one associates with tourism, and for good reason. Folks on vacation rarely end up in hospitals, despite how stupid they tend to act. It's not that their status as travelers protects them, but simple selection bias. You tend to travel when you're young and healthy. You tend to be in hospitals when you're old and sick. Tourists are not a representative sample of the population, and treating them as such leads to probabilistic mirages of the sort the mother warns of every chance she gets. Often fruitlessly. As the pictures go by, Jessica tries to figure out whether her costumed companions are actors or not, looking for hints of calloused hands, for telltale signs of occupations she's intimately unfamiliar with, but finding as much corroborating as contradictory evidence. Click, yes. Click, no. Click, no. Click, yes. Click, no. Hundreds more shutter sounds than answers, until she eventually just asks the man with the stethoscope. Apparently, he's the only one left. Everyone else already went home, and his face looks familiar.
You're not a doctor, right?
He smiles broadly, as though he had been waiting all day for that question, as though he waits for it every day, like a cursory anglerfish with an overly restrictive palate.
Mostly I fail to be one in any way that matters, but that's quite all right, I suppose. A lot of people aren't doctors these days. Oh. Oh? I didn't realize you were one of them. Thought you were, part of the shoot.
The lab coat-wearing figure is clearly not touching the ground, and Jessica bites her cheek a little for having lost time again.
For what it's worth, I'm helping you, aren't I? Helping you heal. Sure doesn't feel like it. I do get that a lot. Can you lift an arm for me? Which one? Mine, if possible.
Jessica stares blankly at the pretend person, attempting to figure out where she had seen him before, and whether this conversation is worth it.
I don't think I can. All right, that's fine. We'll get there. How? Don't ask me. I'm not that kind of doctor. Right, sorry, it's been a while, but I think I remember you. You were part of the distraction. Part of the solution. Same difference. That is an exceptionally unhealthy outlook on psychiatric medicine. Sure, maybe, but that doesn't make it wrong, does it? Isn't that the whole issue? To you, yes, but there's no wrong way of looking. Even if you close your eyes, you see your eyelids. That's not a wrong thing to see, just not a particularly useful one for most purposes. Since you're always looking at something, you should make it worth your while. No? Since when do you do that? Do what? Say cryptic shit like it's a lesson.
Serpentine did it too. You're starting to creep me out.
You gave her a name. Wonderful progress. And I always creeped you out. Don't pretend like this is a new development.
This isn't an answer.
Well, what is it we were saying before then, in your mind?
Noise. Just noise. Cryptic noise, soothing noise, but noise.
Could it not be that you're just finally looking?
Jessica chuckles.
Healthfully?
Oh, that's for you to decide. But you must have started for a reason. That little project of yours, it sure means a lot, huh? Either way, these are all terrific developments, really. We were starting to get worried, Miss Heine. It's been 2 years after all.
Well, whatever it is, I don't like it.
Sure you do. You're so giddy you're practically shaking. Come on, introspect a little. You're scared, sure, but you like being scared by it. You like that it feels like anything at all, don't you?
She does. It's been easy to pretend her quivers were caused by the freezing seawater on their way up the hill, but now that was more than an hour ago, likely longer. Even before Jessica's fingers complete their stuporous journey upward to probe at facial musculature, can she tell that there's a smile on her lips. A nervous, manic one, but a smile nonetheless. A smile on her lips and a cat outside of its normal routine, or many cats, rather. Dr. Fieldsworth still stands amidst the sea of black, but the voice no longer seems to be coming from his mouth, if it ever did to begin with.
I don't know what's going on.
No, you're just not used to the feeling of agency anymore. Look at your phone, read your thoughts a bit. Initiate Puss in Boots sequence. That sounds like an order, doesn't it?
But for what? To whom?
Come on, you have all the answers. You gave yourself the answers.
The shaking has made it difficult to get words out.
Stay calm, just breathe. In and out, and in and out. Then try again.
Try what?
Raising his arm. Don't say you can't, don't argue. Actually try it. Calm breaths, focus, and raise his arm.
The Fieldsworth's arm does rise, slowly and steadily. It even stops when Jessica suspects foul play and stops willing it upward for a bit. She lowers the appendage, straightens his back, turns his head, and makes the doctor disappear.
Wonderful. Now to the good part. Why are you here?
Despite knowing what she would say, Jessica pauses, assures herself that she wants this. She breathes in again, and a second time, for good measure, eyes full of factory reset and an endocrine system attempting to process an entire biohistory of swirling psychochemical mayhem in the span of a prolonged instant.
Because here is always quite a natural place to be in, even if it isn't a good one. Because I've gotten used to floating. Because the fucking stairs weren't working, so...
So?
I called an elevator.
See? Rabote, shabote. It all rhymes. Even the chatbots have their place if we look at it autographically. If we look at Shakespeare. Do you think it'll work?
It has to.
At Heine Official.
The great feline merger of 2019 is upon us.
At Queen Jess is becoming even more powerful. Capital O_capital O. At fuck does that mean? At Jay should direct a surrealist TV show. Her posts always have that texture to them. At totally. It has to. Jessica repeats that sentence over and over again in her mind as she runs back to the car, jumping over the seaside shrubs and ripping her dress in the process, while reality collapses to a dimensionless point. The feeling of gravitational solidity she had felt when naming Serpentine returns with a vengeance, shooting straight past Neutron Star and tearing teeth-wise into its own accretion disk. Identity reassembling from scattered pieces as her smile grows wider and wider, attempting to unhinge from the top down, first jaw-wise, then fully.
At Heine Official. Have you ever associated? Like dissociating but in reverse, crashing down upon yourself at terminal velocity. The fallen sky is clearing. At Peak Schizo. At Loving this arc. At Jess, are you okay? Do you need to talk? I've been through a lot of mental health shit. My DMs are open. At Simp. At Guys, I know this is exciting, but doesn't it remind you of her breakdown 2 years ago? You remember what she tried to do, right? If anyone here knows her personally, please call for a welfare check. At stop taking her so seriously. She's doing this for attention. At And how the fuck would you know? At Don't be so gullible. She's clearly faking. At She was in the hospital for weeks, you sociopath. I don't want that blood on my hands. At Whatever.
Basile's car comes into view behind the trees, likely still smelling just as unbearably new, but even that would probably be tolerable now, just as long as... Boo. Jessica hadn't even fully processed the face or the implications of his presence here when she was already hugging him, his stubble scratching the side of her forehead. Ness's voice sounded older than she remembered it, but still unmistakable in its characteristic energy. It's been a while, but you got there.
So, this is Jessica then?
You don't recognize her? Surely you do. My little sister's famous after all. He spins her around as Jessica attempts to make sense of the other person who had just emerged from behind the car.
I don't really keep up with that sort of media.
Of course you don't. Jessie, this is Kos, my apprentice.
Miriam Koskinen, and the word Heine appears to be in search of is colleague. Either way, nice to meet you.
Colleague, apprentice, it's a sliding scale. Remind me, which one of us has the disappearing privileges again?
There is no such thing as disappearing privileges, but you're the one with the unfounded temerity to test your luck regardless, if that's what you mean.
That is what I mean. Isn't she a riot? I think she's a riot. Now, you don't have to worry. I'm going to be fine. Everything's going to finally be fine. You cannot believe how fucking proud I am of you. Okay? Just get in the car and let Kos and me disappear the ever-loving shit out of you. Had I imagined how fine everything is going to be? Fully. The door opens. Basile still, or maybe again, sits in the driver's seat, lights shining, pretending to operate a motionless vehicle into the wave-swept night. Earlier it was unnerving, but now the robotic motions feel like a comedy routine to Jessica, like an absurdist dance. The whole affair only briefly swings back into unsettling territory when NASA pushes her former sentinel aside, causing him to fall rigidly onto the sand ground and shatter into myriad pieces like a misshapen vase.
This is not real, he has come back before,
Jessica tells herself as she assumes her place in the passenger seat next to Nasser. Miss Koskinen, for her part, unfolds sideways across the back row, immediately opening up a laptop and beginning to type at inhuman speeds.
Miss Jessica Heine, do you hereby agree to having your death faked by way of drowning on the 11th of April 2019? In doing so, you forfeit the right to sue Kalpa Cybernetics and Dialogic Infrastructure with regards to all matters related to your administrative expiration. You also agree to not take any actions which are likely to call the state of your corporeality into question. Should you accidentally call the state of your corporeality into question, inform us immediately. Contact info at the bottom of the contract. Compensatory documentation and accommodation will be provided by the 2nd Division in perpetuity. Please sign here, here, and here.
Nather smiles and nods when Jessica looks for him for affirmation, so she signs.
What about Basile?
What about him?
Won't he get in trouble if I die under his watch?
Oh, yeah, he's a goner. Never seeing that fuck again. 2 birds dropping out of the stratosphere simultaneously through the power of one perfectly aimed stone.
I insisted that he could be an asset.
He can be an asshat, and he can be one of those elsewhere. Good riddance. We can't have pieces like him around when we're in charge.
We won't be in charge if you use company resources to run ops vanishing family members.
I will deal with that. You didn't need to come if you disapprove so much.
I don't, I'm simply pointing out contingencies.
Jessica's brother grumbles for a bit before he turns back to her. How did you get out anyway? Last time I came over to visit you and Mom, you seemed like you barely recognized me, only staring off into space and talking to yourself.
I think it was the experience of making something that wasn't me. I think that helped me draw the boundary again.
The glaring.
You know about that.
Who did you think your users were? Speaking of, give me that. Nasser takes the phone and smashes it full force against a bit of metal at the underside of his seat. Sorry, but you don't have the best track record when it comes to the kind of silence befitting of the dead. No more prying eyes, that's a promise.